Welcome to ZoomInData. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the 15th video in our extended Azure Logic Apps series. In this session, titled Advanced Debugging and Troubleshooting Techniques, 2026 edition, we will cover step-by-step techniques for diagnosing failed runs in both consumption and standard models. Advanced tools including Azure Portal Run History, VS Code Local Debugging, and Log Analytics queries. Strategies for identifying root causes of common issues, throttling, authentication, data mapping, timeouts, best practices for proactive monitoring, automated alerts, and efficient production troubleshooting. Debugging is one of the most critical skills for Logic Apps developers, especially in production environments where downtime costs money. If you find this content valuable, please subscribe to ZoomInData and enable notifications to stay updated. Let us begin. What is the first step when troubleshooting a failed Logic Apps workflow run? Navigate to the Logic App resource in the Azure portal and open the Run's History blade. Locate the failed run by filtering on status, failed, date range, or correlation ID. Click into the specific run to view the complete chronological timeline of every trigger and action. How do you inspect inputs, outputs, and errors in the Azure portal? In the Run Details view, expand each action to see its status, duration, and retry count. Click Show Raw Inputs and Show Raw Outputs to view the exact JSON data passed in and returned out. The error message, exception type, and stack trace appear directly under Failed Actions for quick diagnosis. What are the most common failure types and how to identify them? Authentication failures. Look for 401 403 errors in connector outputs. Check managed identity roles or connection credentials. Throttling, 429. Check for repeated failures with HTTP 429 status. Reduce concurrency or increase polling interval. Data mapping, parsing errors. Inspect parse JSON or compose actions for schema mismatches or invalid JSON. How do you use the resubmit feature effectively? After fixing the issue, e.g., updating a connection or logic, select the failed run and click resubmit. This re-executes the entire workflow with the original trigger data, perfect for testing fixes quickly. For partial fixes, use rerun from to restart from a specific successful action. What advanced debugging features does the VS Code extension provide for standard Logic Apps? Full local run and debug mode using breakpoints on triggers and actions. Variable watch, call stack, and step inter, step over capabilities similar to traditional code debugging. Live inspection of dynamic content, expressions, and runtime values during local execution. How do you debug locally in VS Code before deploying to Azure? Open the standard Logic App project in VS Code and use the extension's Run and Debug feature. Set breakpoints by clicking in the gutter next to actions or expressions. Provide sample trigger payloads and step through execution to validate logic and data flow. What KQL queries are most useful in Log Analytics for troubleshooting? Basic Failed Runs Query, Azure Diagnostics, where category equals workflow runtime, and status _s failed, project time generated, workflow name _s, status _s, error message _s. Connector specific failures. Filter by operation name and connector name. Performance analysis. Aggregate average duration and count by action name. How do you set up proactive alerts for recurring issues? In Azure Monitor, create an alert rule based on the Logic App metric failed runs. Set threshold, example greater than 5 failures in 5 minutes, and route to action group, email, Teams, SMS. Use log analytics query alerts for more complex conditions, example specific error codes. What tools help troubleshoot throttling and performance problems? Monitor the throttled requests metric in Azure Monitor. Check run history for 429 status codes and retry counts on actions. Use Application Insights, standard, for end-to-end tracing and dependency performance. How do you debug authentication issues with managed identities? Verify the identity has correct RBAC roles on the target resource. Example, Key Vault Secrets user. Check run history for 401 400 errors and validate identity type, system, user assigned. Use Azure AD sign-in logs to confirm token issuance and scope. What is the best way to debug data mapping and transformation errors? Use compose actions to capture intermediate data and inspect in run history. Validate JSON schema in parse JSON actions with sample payloads. Add temporary HTTP action to dump data to a test endpoint, example webhook, site. How do you troubleshoot on-premises gateway connectivity issues? Check gateway status in Azure Portal, healthy connections. Review gateway logs on the on-premises machine for connection errors. Test connectivity from gateway machine to target system, example, SQL port 1433. What strategies help when a workflow fails intermittently? Enable detailed diagnostics and correlate runs with external events, example, API downtime. Add retry policies and exponential backoff on transient-prone actions. Use Azure Monitor to track patterns over time, example, time of day spike. How do you debug AI-related issues in intelligent workflows? Log full prompt response JSON using compose actions. Check for token limits, rate limiting, or content filter blocks in OpenAI outputs. Use function calling logs to verify tool execution success. What is the role of correlation IDs in troubleshooting? Every run has a unique correlation ID visible in run history and logs. Use it to trace end-to-end flow across multiple workflows or external services. Filter log analytics queries by correlation ID for distributed debugging. How do you use Application Insights for advanced tracing? Standard. Enable Application Insights in the Logic App settings. View dependency maps, performance profiles, and exceptions across actions. Query custom events for workflow-specific metrics. What are best practices for logging in complex workflows? Add compose actions at key points to capture intermediate state. Use Azure Monitor logs to store custom events from workflows. Avoid logging sensitive data. Use masking or key vault. How do you troubleshoot deployment failures in CI/CD? Check Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions logs for ARM deployment errors. Validate template parameters and connection references. Use what-if deployment to preview changes before applying. What tools help simulate production issues locally? VS Code Local Runner, standard, with mock payloads and breakpoints. Azure Portal Test Action for single-step simulation. Mock connectors, example, HTTP to webhook, site, for external service testing. How do you handle debugging of long-running or stateful workflows? Use run history to inspect partial executions and state persistence. Add manual termination points with custom status for controlled stops. Monitor state size in standard to avoid memory issues. What are the latest debugging enhancements as of January 2026? Improved run history UI with searchable inputs, outputs. Enhanced VS Code extension with AI-assisted breakpoint suggestions. Deeper log analytics templates for common failure patterns. Why is advanced debugging knowledge critical for interviews? Interviewers ask, how would you diagnose a failed run in production? Shows production readiness and ability to minimize downtime. Differentiates candidates who understand theory versus those who can fix real issues. What is your step-by-step troubleshooting checklist? Check runs history. Identify failed action. Inspect raw inputs, outputs, errors. Validate connections, identities. Resubmit to test fix. Query log analytics for patterns. Set up alerts. Document root cause. How do you debug throttling and concurrency issues? Monitor throttled requests metric and 429 status codes. Reduce for each concurrency limit or add delays. Switch to standard for higher limits if volume is predictable. What final advice would you give for becoming an expert troubleshooter? Practice on real failed runs. Create intentional errors to debug. Master KQL queries in log analytics for powerful pattern detection. Document every root cause and fix. Build your personal knowledge base. Thank you for watching this detailed session on advanced debugging and troubleshooting techniques for Azure Logic Apps. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to ZoomInData. More advanced Azure Logic Apps content is coming soon. Stay connected and keep learning. See you in the next video.